All right. Good morning, guys. I'm sure I don't have to let you know, but this is the last week of the class. I've really enjoyed having you guys. I've enjoyed the interactions that I've had with most of you. Um, Not everybody's set up Zoom meetings with me or anything like that, but those of you that have, I've enjoyed getting to know you. I wish you the best of luck. I'm really glad we had so many students in this class that were part of an NFP or were part of a governmental accounting entity. So you were familiar with some of the concepts, you were interested in the concepts, which makes the class uh, much better. Much better for me, much better for you. So I was thrilled to see so many of you in those kinds of positions. I hope you guys watched the interview that I did with David Armour from Convoy of Hope. I actually just saw a news story yesterday about Convoy of Hope, and they had surpassed a certain dollar threshold of charitable contributions and charitable services. So it was kind of a milestone for them. It was really interesting to read. So the next big thing I got to talk to you guys about, obviously, is your final exam. What I would do is I would go back and I would study your quizzes. You can do that by clicking on your quiz grade in your My Grades section of Blackboard. So do that. Look through your quizzes, study those, study your notes that you took over the course of the semester, the notes that you filled in to turn in as assignments. All of those things are going to help you study for the final exam. You shouldn't see anything on the final exam that shocks or surprises you. If it's on the final exam, we have discussed it in some part, or it was a portion of the reading that you should have been doing in the textbook. I just want to remind you guys, because this is feedback that every instructor gets, not just myself, but exams were nothing like what we talked about in class. Well, it's because, as I've mentioned before, content doesn't have to come solely from the lectures. It does come from those textbooks as well. So if you haven't read through some of your text, I would recommend maybe going back and reading through some of it. It'll definitely help you out. So final exam, that's due Thursday before midnight. So if you're like me, you'll wait till about 9:30 or 10 o'clock to start it. But just know, like throughout the rest of the semester, if you wait that long, you're probably not going to get a response from me because I'm probably in bed. But that's due Thursday. There is a practice assignment. It's not like what we've done with the other exams. This one is basically just 25 multiple choice questions set up in a similar way to the final exam and the rest of your exams. And it's going to be representative of what you're probably going to see on your final exam. So get through that. It's an easy 25 points. You have an hour to complete it. You also have 3 attempts at it, so you can go back and go through it again. It's going to take your highest score. So if you score 24 out of 25 and you want to go back and take it and you score a 22, well, that's going to take that 24. I've got it set up that way in Blackboard to just take your highest score. So seriously, take it multiple times. It's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So that is due as well on Thursday at 11:59 p.m. Also, we have the extra credit assignment that is due Thursday at 11:59 p.m. One question I did get about that, we didn't talk much about Yellow Book, but I know I mentioned it a couple times throughout the semester. It is essentially the government's auditing standards for governmental entities. It is what we follow when we perform audits of governmental entities. So it's GASB's standards for auditing. And it's called Yellow Book because it is literally, I will grab mine. It is literally just a big yellow book. 2018 is the most recent edition that I am aware of. It was updated at the end of March 2019, but you will want to go through this. There is a portion of it that asks you for what is the requirement for fraud when we're making assessments, when we're assessing the risk, when we're in the planning stages of the audit, what do we need to do in regards to fraud? It used to just be that you ask the simple question, are you aware of any fraud? If the answer was no, which obviously if it's a fraudster that you're talking to, they're going to tell you no. You just move on and you only really dig into the fraud aspect of it if you come across anything that is suspicious or anything that perks your ears up as an auditor that there may be fraud involved. Now, with this update to the Yellow Book, there are a little more strict standards as to how we approach fraud and how we approach assessing the risk for fraud when it comes to an audit. So what I'm asking for in that extra credit assignment is what chapter of the Yellow Book talks about assessment of fraud and risk, fraud risk, and which paragraph do we go to for guidance on that. So there's actually a couple different paragraphs, but it'll start at, chapter X, paragraph X, Y, right? So, and then it'll move on to another one possibly. So just find those. If you're having trouble finding them, get a hold of me. I'll work with you on it. One other thing to note about this particular audit is you may notice that my name is on this audit report, and that is because I was a audit staff on this. With fraud, it's a little different. It was just me and one other guy that worked it. So I did a lot of the help with the report writing. I did a lot of the walkthroughs and the interviews. Now, depositions are a little different. I don't think there was anybody that was deposed for this one. Actually, yes, there were. There were a couple, 2 or 3 people that we deposed for this one. Now, for depositions, it's a little different. Staff and usually even in-charges don't typically attend a deposition. Who will attend the deposition would be the legal department, so our attorneys that work for the auditor's office, as well as the manager and the director of the audit. So fairly high up the food chain as far as that goes. And the reason for that is they only want, they really want as few people in the room as possible, particularly when you're doing these depositions, because the attorney actually has to ask the questions to an extent. So the managers, the directors, they can ask the questions, but when it comes to legal questions, things like that, it's got to be an attorney. Otherwise, defense attorneys can kind of fight that and say, well, you are a CPA, you're not a JD, an attorney, right? So why were you questioning these legal type issues during a deposition? There's a lot to it, but I didn't get to go to the depositions, but my name is on the report. I did almost all the field work. Myself and my in-charge at the time did all the field work. We wrote the report from scratch. So you are not going to be able to BS me on this. I'm familiar with this audit, very, very familiar with this audit. So if you have questions, that's the flip side of this. One side, you're not going to be able to just make things up. And the other side is you got an expert at your fingertips to ask questions about this audit, the procedures that we used, those kinds of things. So take advantage of that. I think it's a really interesting assignment. It is a little bit of work, but extra credit requires a little bit of extra effort. So if you do have questions about that, let me know. Everything should be open that needs to be open at this point. All your points are available on Blackboard at this point. So you can make a pretty close approximation to what your grade is going to be in this class based on, did I turn in extra credit? Did I do the organizational project? Did I, what do I feel like I'm going to do on the final exam? You'll be able to make some kind of assessment on that, and you'll be able to assess your own risk, right? So I will get through and get everything graded before Thursday. That way you've got an idea of where you need to be for your final exam. I know I shouldn't tell you this, but that was always my goal, was to do as well as I could throughout the course of the semester on everything else so that the final exam was not a stressor for me. I did not need to stress out about it. So most of you are in that position. I'm very happy with that. You guys have done so well in this class, and I'm so thrilled with that. So, again, I've enjoyed having you guys. If you got any more questions, any more comments, any more concerns, please let me know. Happy to talk to you guys. But until then, I will see you later. Thanks.